Hello folks, today we're going to talk a bit about preparing this rim. This is off the CB750 project I've been working on much of the winter. Preparing this rim for the new tire I bought for it. Again, keep in mind this is not a full restoration. This is basically a reconditioning, and the owner wanted me to manage the cost as part of this project. So his interest is primarily making the bike safe and rideable and not being particularly concerned about cosmetics. This rim, again the rear rim, is not in particularly good shape. Mechanically it's okay, that being it's safe. I went through all the spokes and all the spokes are tight. They had actually good bearings and they're well lubricated, but cosmetically it's not the best. Has a fair amount of surface rust, but he really doesn't want to make the investment in having me essentially replace or rechrome the rim. It'd probably have to be replaced, to be honest about it. I don't think it'd be wise to try to attempt to chrome this rim. All new spokes and relacing and everything would be a fairly good size investment. So we're going to go with the rim. Again, it is safe. I've gone over it in detail. I've cleaned it up so it will be fine for his use. What we're going to talk about is lining the inside of this channel in the rim with duct tape. I don't use typically those little rubber bands, those strips that you can buy for protect the tube. This is a tube rim. Protect the tube from the heads of the spoke nipples, as you can see right here. That's what those rubber bands are for. I'm just not wild about them. I've been using duct tape for years. This happens to be Gorilla Tape brand duct tape. It's very good quality. It's very heavy duty, and I'll be putting several layers of this duct tape around the rim and not using the rubber band strip that again we typically would see. So I'm going to show you how I would do that. It's cheap, it's quick, and I believe it provides better protection for the tube than those little rubber bands, which tend to skate from side to side, and I just don't mess with them. So that's what this video is about. To start with, I have simply mounted the rim on the axle in my vise here, and I got it well clamped so it won't obviously fall off on me. It makes it real easy to spin, as you can see here, and it's good and secure, so the rim isn't going anywhere. This isn't rocket science, folks. It's very easy to do. How I'm going to start this is I'll take the top end of the tape here and lay it right square with the bottom of this flat spot of the channel like that. And you can see how I did that. Now I'm going to hold it with my finger, and now I'm going to work the tape down as I go. And I'm going to go around and just work that down. And what we're going to end up doing through the course of this process is I will overlap the tape in the middle. So the next piece will be overlapped the opposite way. It'll go from here to approximately here. Well, let's get this first section done. And you can see how I'm pushing it up against the wall here. These wrinkles will not make any difference for what we're doing today. It doesn't really take very long once you get going and you can get your process down. Every rim is a little bit different because of the width and the configuration. The concept is exactly the same regardless of the rim, but the details might vary a little bit depending on what you're dealing with as you work on the rim. And again, I'm just pushing the tape here in the bottom up against the spoke nipples, and again it will be overlapped. Perfection here is not the objective. What you want to do is make sure the inside of the rim, particularly over the spoke nipples, the heads of the spokes, are well protected. The objective is to provide a nice clean surface for the inner tube to rest against. If someone might wonder about moisture causing this tape not to adhere, I can tell you that in all the years I've done it this way, and it's been many, countless number of tires, many of which I have ultimately had to go back and change a tire, or for one reason or the other, I had to remove it. And I've never had a problem, if you use a good quality tape, I've never had a problem with the tape staying in position, because once you inflate the tire itself, as it expands, will actually press against the tape, and it actually tends to seal it down. If anything, the biggest problem one might have is trying to get the tape off 15, 20 years from now. But moisture has never proven to be a problem for me. Also, while we're talking about moisture, I don't use anymore liquids as lubricants when I mount tires. I have used soaps in the past, but I don't anymore. I tend to use like a talcum powder, baby powder, which is quite slippery. I don't want to introduce any more moisture into this tire than I absolutely have to. Now we've gone all the way around, and I've just completed the first 360. So what I'm going to do now is, you don't have to cut the tape. I'm simply going to start shifting it like this. I'm going to start shifting it the other way so that I can come up on this rim here. Don't have to do it all in one pass. You just want to start working it over. Anybody's wondering about the valve stem, we will come back when we're done and we will cut that out. This Gorilla brand tape, as I mentioned, I think earlier when we started, is a very good quality tape. It's quite a bit thicker than bargain brands. Consequently, it doesn't have quite the give that other more inexpensive tapes might have. And basically, we're going to now repeat the process. I've completed the transition across from this side to this side. And again, it doesn't really make any difference how long it takes you as you go around to make that transition. It really doesn't. I probably could have stretched this out a little more than what I did. But it's not a big deal, really. Now that I'm all the way up against this side with the tape, I'm essentially going to duplicate what we did with the first pass. Come up on the side here of the rim a little bit, makes absolutely no difference at all. What I'm trying to do is provide a nice, clean, smooth strip here for the inner tube. Because this is not a tubeless style rim. The tire I bought is a tubeless tire, but I still have to use a tube with it because the rim is not designed to handle a tubeless tire. And they have to match. So if you got a tubeless tire, you have to have the appropriate kind of rim that would match that. Generally, I'll start by pressing here, take my fingers and go back and just wrap the tape around like you see there. Now I'm just about completed the second pass because you can see here where the tape started to come up across to match this side of the rim. Now that we've got two full wraps, one on this shoulder, the other on this shoulder, we've been around twice now, I essentially end up with a double layer of duct tape over the tops of the nipples or the heads of the spokes, which is really what my objective is here all along. It's not so much for here, but it's rather to cover the spoke heads. I went up onto the rim simply because I didn't want to end the tape here and have it want to curl back on me in this way. That won't happen. I could stop here and cut it off because I wrapped it twice like I've talked about. Or I can go ahead and continue on in center now with a third wrap. Now I've got to start working it back towards the middle of the tire here, and I could bring a third wrap, which basically I consider optional at this point. I'll bring it, start working it back. For this third round on this rim, my focus is going to be pushing my fingers against the spoke heads first, because that's where I want to make sure the tape is pushed down. Maintaining relative alignment to the center of the rim. A little bit of variation isn't critical, and in fact is going to happen. The next thing I'm going to do, since I now have it started, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it all the way around using my thumb, push it down into the middle. I have to reposition a little bit as I go. That's fine. You can pretty much expect that. I'm getting back close to where I started. This is where I had completed the previous wrap for this shoulder. Here's where I started to bring it back to center. So I'm just about to the end of the last wrap that I'm going to put on this tire. Taking just scissors and cut it off. Like that. I have completed the wrap all the way around. At this point, all I'm going to do is take my fingers, make sure the tape is pressed down. There'll be a little bit of some pockets and that kind of thing because of the shape of the rim. That won't make any difference at all. Again, what I'm trying to do is protect the spoke heads, or more appropriately, the tube. From the inner tube from the spoke heads. And there we go. So this rim is now ready for the application of the inner tube in the tire. One other point I want to make is I did go along and make sure this edge here, this inner edge of the metal of the rim cleaned up, and there's nothing sharp that will potentially damage the tube. This is about as smooth as you're going to get now, and that duct tape will last for the life of certainly the inner tube. Any questions? Feel free to leave a comment. Thanks.